Hi there, it's Dr. Young, and thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited because Judy Gillespie from Australia is going to be our presenter today, and she's still awake. I think it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning her time. So super excited for that, her project and her passion that she's going to be sharing with us. It's called Vetanswers, and I hope that everybody gets to sign up with it after the presentation. So again, this is Dr. Young. It's Thursday at 1 o'clock. Every week we have 30-minute webinars that I'm hoping will help you in your veterinary practice. I'm trying to connect you with ideas and people and resources that you may not be connected with otherwise. So with that, I'm just going to turn the whole presentation over to Judy, and I'm going to be quiet. If you have any questions, just type them into the chat box, and then at the end of the presentation, I will read the questions to her. I'm going to say that the presentation is going to be about 20 minutes, and hopefully the internet angels that are working really hard right now in Australia are going to continue working hard. So thank you for doing this presentation, Judy, and I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes, I believe everybody can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for attending, well, this afternoon your time and this morning my time. Yes, it is 3 a.m. here. I'm on the Gold Coast in Queensland in Australia. And I'm really pleased to be given the opportunity to talk to you today. Dr. Young wanted me to talk to you about as she rightly called it, my passion, which is my business called Vetanswers. Vetanswers is, actually you can see that the screen there is what I've used as an ad on Facebook to encourage people to join, and I've used the wording join our veterinary community because that's what Vetanswers is all about. I just get my screen happening here. This is my dog Nina, who's sleeping next to me, hopefully not snoring. There's some contact information there for me, but if you go on anything to do with Vetanswers, it's pretty easy to link up with all the other areas. But I'll be talking about each of these components sort of fairly briefly as I go through. Today, I just wanted to give you an idea as to what the community of Vetanswers is all about and why I think community is so important, and also just briefly why I think community should matter to your business. I personally believe community should matter to every business, but I think in particular the veterinary industry is perfectly placed to build and develop in communities within their own clients and also within their own industry as well. So I just want to give you a brief overview as to what Vetanswers is all about. Firstly, it's an online veterinary community, and the focus is on the business side of running a veterinary business. It is completely online, and when I first started Vetanswers probably about 4.5, 5 years ago, I decided that it was going to be completely online, firstly because that was obviously the way things were heading, and secondly because of the nature of the veterinary industry within Australia, which I'll talk about shortly. The idea behind Vetanswers is that I wanted to develop a central hub where everyone involved in the veterinary industry is welcome. So it doesn't matter where you live. I'm talking about Australia, but obviously the fact that it's an online community means that it's open to everybody who has access to the internet. So I wanted it to be a hub, as I said, where everyone involved is welcome. And I wanted to make it so that money wasn't an issue, and where you lived and what you did in the industry wasn't an issue. It was something that was, I guess, equally available to everybody. My little tagline for Vetanswers is save time, connect and discover. And those three, or that phrase is fairly important to me because that's another reason why I set up the community of Vet Answers. Firstly, I wanted to, my aim, I guess, is possibly one of the most important parts. I know the people that I've worked with in the industry in the past, and it would be exactly the same for you. You never have enough time. And the time that you do have, you really want to devote to what you love doing, which is working with animals. So the business side of things sometimes gets a little bit left behind, partly because you often don't have time to look up the newest theories or the best resources. And to be honest, partly because I think that's not necessarily where your interests lie. And I'm, you know, perfectly aware that most of you got into the industry because you loved working with animals, not because you desperately wanted to run a business. So my aim of setting up Vet Answers was that I could provide a place where you could find business resources and it wouldn't take time. My other option, or my other aim, was to connect. I wanted to give or to build an environment where everybody in the industry could come along to and connect with others in the industry. As I said, no matter what their job was, no matter what association they were members of, no matter where they lived, if I developed a completely online community, there was no barriers to that opportunity. And thirdly, discover, and that's an important thing for me. I love spending time online and finding interesting information, and I like to share that information. So my aim is to have ideas, information, products and services that I think people out there working in veterinary practices perhaps don't have the time or the interest to find themselves. And I think a lot of times people miss out on really fantastic ideas just because they don't know about them. So our online community in Vet Answers is made up of a website, and on the website is where all my blogs posts live. If I come across free resources, I add links to those resources to the website, and I also have a business directory. So businesses can join my directory and then obviously become an active part of our community. I also have a Facebook page, which is fairly active. I'll post up to 6 times a day on my Facebook page. Twitter is probably my favourite form of social media, personally. LinkedIn, I've got a personal page and a business page. Google Plus, again, I've got personal and business. Interestingly, Google Plus isn't so popular in Australia. I'm on it for obvious reasons, but from an Australian perspective, there's not terribly much that, it just hasn't connected, I think, within Australia. Pinterest and YouTube channel, which I have to admit I haven't been doing terribly much with lately, but it's something that I'd like to develop more of. So that's basically what the online community of Vet Answers consists of. Why did I start it? Well, in Australia, we have a very fragmented veterinary industry. There isn't really one place where people can go to find out information. We have you know, associations for veterinarians to join. We have one association. We have an association for vet nurses to join, both of which probably only have about 50% of vets are members, probably less than 50%, and the same for the Vet Nurses Association. So there's a lot of people out there who perhaps for whatever reason are not connected to anything within the industry, and they're just working in their business, doing the best they can without that connection. And I think that makes life really difficult if you don't have people to talk to, or just other people to let you know you're not going crazy and things are difficult or things are easy, or how they could be doing things better. Australia is also a very big country with a very small population. Our population is about 22 million. So our veterinary industry is nowhere near the size of the industry in the US. And so we have a lot of isolated people. Our conferences are really expensive too. Not only are they expensive to attend, it's also expensive to fly around the country, and then you have, you know, accommodation and meals. And so for a lot of people to even attend one conference can be a challenge. I'm sure it's the same in the States. Pay rates are not very high, particularly vet nurses. And, you know, they are really just earning enough to get by, let alone the thought of having to spend a couple of $1,000s to attend a conference is just not an option for a lot of them. So again, they don't, you know, they miss out on so many networking opportunities. And I'm also very aware of the number of missed opportunities for a lot of practices. They're missing out on useful products and services just because they don't know about them. They don't have a connection. They're not part of an association. They don't get the magazine. They don't see the new products and the new services that are available. So keeping in mind all those points, my aim was to build a community where everyone is welcome, where money was no object to entry, which is why I've made Vet Answers free for people to join. And a lot of people over the years have said, you're crazy, you know, you're offering a lot of value. You should be getting some financial, you know, you should be charging a membership. And it was always my aim that it would be free for people to join, and I would have other ways of financing what I actually deliver. And that's through the business directory and through a number of other advertising options that I have within my community. But my aim is that no matter where you live or what your job is in the industry, then everyone is welcomed equally, because I think the veterinary industry as a whole will only succeed and develop if everybody, and that's vet nurses, which is, you know, vet technicians, veterinarians, practice owners, practice managers, can work together and have, I guess, an equal opportunity within the industry to develop and grow. So to me, why is community important? I think community gives people support. It can give you hope. It gives you feedback. It lets you know if what you're doing is up to standard. It can give you joy. It can make you laugh. It can give you new ideas. And it also creates trust. And being a part of a community is important because it helps you to make connections with others. It helps you share experiences. And importantly, it can help you not feel alone. And I know mental health issues within the veterinary industry are becoming more and more of an issue, and I'm sure it is the same in the States as it is over here, and the rates of suicide within the industry is horrifying. And I realised after I'd set up Vet Answers that perhaps this was a way that, you know, if we could encourage more people to join and to talk and connect, then perhaps we could help with that problem of veterinary and or mental health in the veterinary industry. We had earlier on in the year, we had the first international symposium for veterinary mental health and suicide prevention that was held here in Brisbane in Australia. And Dr. Brian McErlin, who is has become an expert in the area of mental health within the veterinary industry within Australia. As I was attending the conference, I was live tweeting, and so a lot of the tweets I turned into, I guess, these images that I've also been sharing throughout my community. And a few points he made me realise even more so the importance of community, and one of which was the isolation and feeling of worthlessness, a dynamite for mental health. And it's easy to feel isolated and it's easy to feel worthless if you don't have other people telling you otherwise, and if you don't have the opportunities to compare what you're doing with others. Sometimes it's easy to think it's just you struggling, when if you can talk to others, they can say, yep, I had a really bad day as well. You know, this is what happened, and sometimes just sharing that can make a big difference. And another statement he made during that time was that there were 3 key elements to improve mental health. 1 was community, 2 was fitness, and 3 was diet. And I think, again, these are 3 areas that within our industry. Community, easy to feel isolated. People tend to work so many hours and work so hard that fitness and eating well also becomes an issue. So that was one thing that I then decided, if you have a look on the Vet Answers website, one of my blog categories is called It's All About Food. And I started to publish 1 a week. I've probably published about 15 recipes that are easy to cook, healthy, and something to give people ideas. And at the time I thought, this is probably a bit of a crazy thing. I'm running a veterinary community, but I'm posting recipes. But my reasons were that I was, to again try and hit these areas that it's part of a community that I love cooking, and I spend a lot of time doing it, and I spend a lot of time looking for recipes and testing them out. So I figure that was just another areas that I could share. So what about your business? Why am I passionate about community, and why do I think you should be considering it as well? I looked around, how could I sort of in a nutshell explain why I think community is so important, and I went to someone who I think has a really good handle on this whole area, which is Seth Godin. I'm sure you've probably heard of him, and if you haven't, he's definitely worth following his daily blog posts and information, and he's all about building a tribe. And so this is a quote that I took from one of his blog posts back from 2008. And it says, what people really want is the ability to connect with each other, not to companies. So the permission is used to build a tribe, to build people who want to hear from the company, because it helps them connect. It helps them to find each other. It gives them a story to tell and something to talk about. And the little image below Join Our Tribe was another one of the ads that I've used on Facebook to encourage people to join my community. Interestingly enough, I had 4 ads that I just tested to see which worked and which didn't. And some of them said Join Our Tribe, and some of them said Join Our Community. And even though Join Our Tribe, or the word tribe, is kind of a bit of a buzzword within, I guess, management and the internet, and certainly probably because of Seth, for my community, or the people that I was connecting with via Facebook, they did not like that word tribe, and the ad that had the word community was far more popular. So I sort of stopped using the word tribe, but that's kind of what it's all about. And I think from your business perspective, it's, there are so many opportunities that you can build a community within your veterinary business. Obviously, Vet Answers is online. Sometimes I find that frustrating, and, there are limitations to that. You don't have that limitations. You have the luxury and the ability to talk to people face to face, and I think that can make building a community so much easier. For example, having open days, supporting local charities, getting involved in your local schools, offering education evenings to clients and potential clients, opportunities to educate, puppy school, pet weight watchers, all those sorts of opportunities, and even offering things like pet and owner exercise. You can partner up with a local gym or a personal training company to offer those sorts of things, and they're not necessarily, to me, another thing, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, I love giving things away for free, which is not always good when you're also running a company, but it's something that I believe is important. And I think from a veterinary point of view, if you can give out as much, I'm not saying you should be giving away free services, that's certainly not what I'm suggesting, but information is very powerful. And all these opportunities are ways to, I guess, develop trust, which is, a hugely important thing within every industry. Online, there's heaps of opportunities as well. Obviously, there's social media. I'm involved in lots of different social media, some better than others. I'm certainly not brilliant at all of them. I think that I'm involved in lots because I like to try them out and see what works and what doesn't work. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that's what you need to do. You need to probably find out where your clients are hanging out, and then you join them. So if they're on Facebook, you go on Facebook. If they're on Twitter, you're on Twitter. Pinterest, that's where you go. You've also got the opportunity to have regular newsletters, blogging and emails. To me, blogging is essential. I'm on a bit of a bandwagon at the moment to try and get more people to blog, because I think it's the more information we can put out there that's correct, the less people will believe the weird and wonderful world that they discover when they consult Dr. Google. Why should you bother doing it? Well, because obviously this takes time. There are benefits to your business, obviously. If you can build trust, if you can build a name for yourself, you're more likely to have people come to your business looking to have your services. If they trust you, they're more likely to listen and to comply with your recommendations, which again, benefits your business. It benefits your clients because you can perhaps offer them the community that they may be lacking. They could be lonely, they may be sitting at home and not connecting either, and you can actually make a difference in their lives by having a community that they can join and be a part of. And it also benefits your team. If you're part of if you believe that you're part of a community within your workplace, then your job is much more than a job. You start to feel part of a bigger picture, and it satisfies your team members' need for belonging as well. So I think the whole area of developing a community and developing a strong community is really important for the mental health of everybody in our community, not just the veterinary industry, but everybody, which is why Vet Answers is what it is, and why I'm trying to, I guess, keep building it and keep offering more resources and more opportunities for people to connect. As I said, I'm limited because I'm doing it online. I think things like Dr. Young's Hangout Now are great opportunities. That's something I'd like to look at doing, as well. So I think there's lots of opportunities out there to develop a community for your business, for yourself, and for your team. So I think that's probably just over my 20 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, thank you for listening, and I hope you're more than welcome. I'd like to invite all of you to come and join Vet Answers, and you may get a little bit annoyed. It is a very, obviously there's a lot of Australian content, but I'm also happy to share and expand our community. So shall I pass over to you, Dr. Young?
Thank you. That was absolutely terrific. And I have a terrible echo again, so I apologize for that if that comes across in the recording. But I don't see any questions yet. If you have questions, just go ahead and type them into the chat box and I will read them to Judy. But I just think it's a fantastic idea, and I know that we connected because both of us want to share ideas and resources with the veterinary industry. And of course, there's a lot of us out there who provide services for veterinarians who want to share what we have to offer. But more importantly, what you and I talked about is the suicide rate that's just skyrocketed in the veterinary industry over the last 20 or so years. Because I remember when I graduated from vet school in '94, we had the lowest suicide rate. We were the healthiest of all of the professionals out there. And dentists at that time were the worst. And now we flip-flopped. And I think being a part of a community is so important. I'm actually so happy and grateful for getting feedback from some of the people who've had breakthrough strategy sessions with me for my coaching. And I'm starting to understand what you have just said in your presentation. I'm just now starting to get that, whereas you've been understanding this for years now, is the importance of a community, the importance of belonging, because the reason why people are trying to connect with me in the veterinary industry is because they think as a coach, and they're right, I understand where they're coming from because I've been there. I've worked in the veterinary industry as a practice owner, as a doctor, as an associate vet, even as a manager. And so that connection that, hey, this is a community or a person who understands what I'm saying, that's huge. And so I also like Seth Godin and, building tribes. I also follow Dave Logan and his tribal leadership. And I like the fact that you're calling it a community, because I think tribes and tribal leadership has just been kind of overused too much in the last few years. So I love that about what you've just shared. And the community creating a community is not only about creating a community for your clients, so that you go out and share information opportunities with your clients, who then are naturally more drawn to you, and you've created that trust, but also your team members. I think that is so important, because there is a reason why people work for veterinary clinics. And I think we forget that. We forget that common bond, and then we just hone in on the mistakes that they make, or the fact that they're not the receptionist that we thought they were going to be, or they're not the veterinary assistant who we thought they were going to be. And I think there's a deeper issue why it's not working out. And so I think creating that community and satisfying that need for belonging is so very important. And gosh, I just agree with everything that you've said. I'm so happy that I found you, and I'm glad we're connected. And I hope that a lot of people listen to your presentation, because I think it's just terrific.
Thank you.
And if there's anything that I can do to help, obviously your feedback before we went live was very important for me, as far as how LinkedIn is working or isn't working. And I have to be more careful about how I post my these webinars that I'm offering. And the registration process should really not be that difficult. And I think it's getting lost in the shuffle. So thank you for pointing that out. And I will really look into that and post it in more places.
It's a shame if people miss out, I guess, because I don't really know what's going on with LinkedIn, but I'm finding it a little confusing. The order that it used to be is obviously some posts are getting shoved up moved up the list, and others are not getting there. So I know I'm missing a lot that I used to receive.
Right. And it was actually you who pointed out that because I started out with a conference call, that there wasn't a toll-free number to call, and it would cost a lot for people from Australia to call into. And so you're actually the one who gave me the push to look for a different platform. And that's how I found Google. So it's interesting that I'm on Google and you're not on Google yet. So I can't wait for you to try it. I hope you like it. And I do have to agree with you. I don't think Google Plus in the United States is as common as, or as popular as all the other, Facebook, Twitter, and all of those. I think it's trying to make to get a hold, but I think it's still struggling. So there's not much difference between Australia and us here in the States, as far as I can tell.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I wondered if it was just us, and I'm sure it probably has traction in some industries, more the IT. I think if you're in IT, then Google Plus is the place to be, but not in veterinary. I just don't think it just hasn't made it. But I thought it was more popular in the States, so that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't think so, not yet. But so we just have a minute left, and I was wondering if you could just go back to your slide with all of the information on how to connect with you, so that we leave that up for a few seconds, and I'll stop talking so that people can see that again. And thank you. And I'm sure we will stay in touch, and maybe I can talk you into having another, all-nighter so that you can give another presentation to us.
Well, I'm actually still quite awake. I don't even think, I'm hoping I'll sort of, when I get ready for bed, I will be able to go to sleep, but I feel quite wide awake.
Excellent. So every time, of course, I talk, then your picture, your slide goes off screen. So I'm going to stop talking and just say goodbye to everybody, but I'm going to wait a few seconds before I stop broadcasting so that everybody gets the information and can sign up with Vetanswers. And you and I will stay in touch, and hopefully we can get you on here again, because it was a great presentation. I hope we get a lot more people to sign up with your online site. And thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.